and shooting and killing. And so, anyway, this lawsuit goes to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court Justice John Marshall decides in favor of the Indians. They get to keep their land. But the line attributed to Andrew Jackson was Marshall made his decision, let him enforce it. In other words, Supreme Court has no army. They can make a decision, but a president can simply say, you know what, we're just not going to enforce that decision. All the federal agencies that are under my administration, we're not going to enforce this decision. Anyway, so...
That sounds like the
Andrew
line,
Jackson,
how many divisions does he have, you know?
Yeah, and so anyway, Andrew Jackson, in his mind, he probably thought it was going to be a little, orderly, but he's out. His assistant, vice president, has now become President Martin Van Buren, and this is when it's enacted. And it's the terrible Trail of Tears, freezing winter, the 16,000 Indians uprooted from their homes. I mean, we're talking grandmas. This is the federal government coming onto your property with bayonets fixed, forcing these grandmas and these housewives out of the houses into these stockades, open to the air. And then this freezing weather, and 4,000 of them died. Christians along the way were bringing them blankets. The Cherokee anthem was Amazing Grace. You believe that? They would sing Amazing Grace, and these Christians. But this was a Democrat policy to just drive these people out of their homes. And so, anyway,
using the full force of the federal government.
Yeah, and so that's the bad thing that's laid at Andrew Jackson's feet. So he did pay off the debt. He did end the Bank of the United States, but his big government decision with Indian removal was bad.
You know, a friend of the station, she is a co-host on one of the shows here, Mayor Janice. She wrote an article recently asking, and I think she was quoting Thomas Jefferson out of it also, should we have had a Bill of Rights? And do we have a lot of issues legally that we shouldn't have because of the Bill of Rights, leaving some things that should have been self-evident open to legislation now? And I wrote an article in response to her article, and I didn't quite believe all of that. I thought we needed the protections of the Bill of Rights. But then I got to thinking of some of the other amendments we've seen that didn't work out so well. And you mentioned the 14th. I was thinking, was it Volkman, the prohibition? That didn't go so well. And then we had to have another amendment to turn that one back around again. And the 14th Amendment.
The 18th and the 20th.
Yes, there you go. Well, you are the man. So the 14th seems to be giving rights to a group that actually should have had those rights all along, and their rights should have been recognized. But then it also gave us anchor babies. Do you see any, how do I put that, any disparity there or contradiction there within the 14th Amendment? I understand what it did is a good thing, but should it have been done a different way? Alex, did you have something? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it seems to me that it's the wrong interpretation of the 14th Amendment that's the problem, not the 14th Amendment.
Okay. Go ahead, Bill.
Right. I did want to clarify the 18th Amendment prohibited alcohol, and it was the 21st Amendment that repealed it. But, again, big government decision. You had the Southern Democrat states were originally in favor of states' rights. Now, they were wanting to shelter slavery under that states' rights, which was bad. Lincoln, in Washington, warned in his farewell address, and he said, usurpation, and that's doing something you're not authorized to do. Usurpation, though, in one instance, is the instrument of good. It is the customary weapon by which free governments are destroyed. So it was good that Lincoln ended slavery. In the process, a whole lot of rights went from the states to the federal government. It was good that Franklin Roosevelt wanted to end the Depression, but a whole lot of rights went from the states to the federal government. It was good that Lyndon Johnson wanted to get rid of poverty, Great Society welfare state, but a whole lot of rights went from the states to the federal government. It was even good that President Bush wanted to make sure there's no more terrorist attacks, but he pushes through the NSA and the Patriot Act, which basically usurps rights so the federal government can read all your emails and track every Google search you do. Right? And so the big government decisions are usually the ones, and then Washington even says, he goes, whatever transient or temporary benefit is gained from the decision is far outweighed by the permanent evil and damage it does to our free institutions.
I was thinking as you were saying that, or run a FISA attack on your presidential opposition candidate.
Yeah, and even Washington, in his draft of his inaugural address, he says, no wall of words can protect our country. He says, no matter how good of a constitution we have, we're dealing with human nature. And water seeks its own level. Water will find any crack and leak in to your house if it's flooding, And so selfish people will find a way to get into any structured government to push their selfish agenda. But nevertheless, when it comes to the amendments that you're speaking of, yes, the 14th Amendment was the big government decision. Ideally, it would have been the South being morally convinced that slavery was wrong and that they would decide on their own to get rid of it and then voted for politicians and passed laws. If that would have happened, you wouldn't have had the vigilante resistance that was a result of it being forced from the top down. So you get into the debates, and interestingly enough, they were church debates over the scriptures. And at the time, even Lincoln's second inaugural address, he said, both sides read the same Bible, pray to the same God. The prayers both could not be answered. It seems strange that one group would want to, provide their benefit by the sweat of another. And so you had the Northern abolitionists quoting from the Bible. Jesus says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You don't want to be a slave? Don't make anybody else a slave. Lincoln said, whenever I see somebody arguing for slavery, I have this strong impulse to want to see it tried on them first. You're in favor of slavery? Let's start with you,
Yeah.
But the Southern people, you had them preaching, saying, well, Abraham owned slaves and, all this type of stuff, so it's okay. So before the Civil War, the country was divided into 5 categories. You had the extreme North. They were called radical Republicans. They said slavery is wrong, end it now. And then you had the moderate North. They were sort of the Rhino Republicans. They said slavery's wrong, but we have to transition out of it over time. You don't want to put people that can't read out on the street. Mm-hmm. We need to do this structured. And then you had the moderate neutral that could care less about social issues of slavery and human rights. They just cared about taxes and tariffs and so forth. It's the economy, stupid type stuff. And then you had the moderate Democrat South that said slavery is wrong, but we got to live with it. It's been here for hundreds of years. Just treat your slaves nice. Have it be rare and few, And then you had the extreme radical Democrat South that said slavery's good. Let's expand it to the new territories coming into the Union, after the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah, right.
And let's force northern states to participate and dip their hands in the blood of slavery by the fugitive slave law, where if a slave escapes and finds his way to the north, you have to snitch on your neighbor if you see him letting the slave, be in his garage or basement. And if you don't snitch on your neighbor, you are an accomplice in a federal crime.
Yeah.
So here you have the federal government coming into the north saying, you got to pay for abortions whether you like it or not.
Exactly. It's the exact corollary. Hey, we got like 20 seconds left. You want to give your web address and any information?
Sure. My website is AmericanMinute.com, AmericanMinute.com. Send out a free daily email you can sign up for. And then one of the books that covers a lot of history is called Miracles in American History. Mm-hmm. So there's stories in our country's past where there's a crisis, they pray, and things turn around.
Well, thanks, Bill. It was really good to talk to you. I'm glad you called in. It was very informative. I learned about 5 new things that strike me right off the top of the head. So thanks again for calling in, and we'll talk to you later. And the rest of you, come on back after the break. We've got more goodies for you. See ya.
People are always on the go, driving to work, running errands. How do they keep informed? They listen to Wham Talk 1600 just like you. If you're a business owner, your message can reach these people wherever their travels take them. People tune to Wham Radio for the latest issues, discussed by hosts like Joe Pags, Fayron X, and Dana Lesh. And they'll stay tuned for your message as well. Call 734-971-1600 today and advertise your business with Wham Radio and whamradio.com. Whamradio.com.
Fox News Radio, I'm Karen McHugh. The deadline for reuniting the children of illegal immigrants separated from their parents has come and gone.
As of Friday morning, the Department of Homeland Security said it had reunified every eligible parent with their children. Now, that accounted for nearly 1,900 of the 2,600 children who were separated. DHS says it hasn't reunified the remaining 700 plus children because those parents are not eligible, either because they have a criminal record or, as DHS explains in a statement, some illegal alien adults are not eligible or available for reunification today, including some adults who are not in ICE custody and are instead in the interior of the U.S. or their home country or have chosen not to be reunited.
Fox's Garrett Tenney. An overnight fire at an extended stay motel in Berrien County, Michigan kills one adult and 5 children, all from the same family. An investigation's ongoing. Fox News, we report, you decide.
The Firing Line Indoor Gun Range and Gun Shop offers training at all levels for safe and responsible exercise of your American Second Amendment rights. The Firing Line is located at 33,000 Ford Road in Westland, Michigan. Firing Line offers classes for CCW and personal protection, league events and training, a state-of-the-art indoor handgun and rifle range, gun rental, and firearm sales. Special orders are no problem at the Firing Line, and they're open 7 days a week. The Firing Line staff are all highly experienced law enforcement and military firearms experts. You cannot find a better place to gain the knowledge and experience you need to own and responsibly use a pistol or rifle. See the Firing Line's website for a complete schedule of classes and training available at firinglineguns.com. Ladies, the Firing Line offers Ladies' Night. This is a great opportunity for women to get together at the range and shoot with other women, as well as receive assistance from all female shooting instructors. Call the Firing Line today, 734-326-7320, or visit them online at firinglineguns.com.
Your bridge to recovery and wellness is WellBridge. WellBridge is redefining the rehabilitation and nursing care experience with the most amazing care facilities you've ever seen. All WellBridge locations offer a resort-like atmosphere, and their driving goal is to provide each guest with an epic experience. Here's former patient Evelyn Danielson from Brighton.
When I got into my room, there were happy faces welcoming me. The PT people there peeked around the door the next morning and said, "You're going to walk with us." And I said, "Oh, no, I can't." But I did. They don't push you. They lead you very kindly. And the next thing you know, you're doing it. They have a wonderful attitude.
For rehabilitation and nursing care, ask for something epic. Ask for WellBridge. In Brighton, Fenton, Novi, and Pinckney. Now looking for talented nurses and certified nurse assistants to join their growing team, WellBridge invites everyone to learn more about them at thewellbridgegroup.com. WellBridge, your bridge to recovery and wellness starts here.
You're listening to The Drift on Wham Talk 1600. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. Now, back to your host, Gary Wellings.
Like I said, I'm not Gary Wellings. I don't sound like him. I don't look like him. I'm not as smart as him. I don't get as upset as him. This is your host, Ed Bonderenka. It is The Drift, and sitting here with me is Al Wassell. And Alex and I are hoping to make the second half of the show as enjoyable for you as the first half was. I'm sorry for any confusion that might have been there. Bill thought he was on for the whole hour, so that's why I kind of wrapped up quickly there at the end. But we hope to have Bill back again. I thought that was very... Alex, what'd you think?
Oh, that's information they don't teach in school, and information I couldn't find elsewhere.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well, earlier I had mentioned one of our advertisers, and that was Rolling Meadows Golf Course and Sutton Barn, the venue for where you want to have your wedding, your graduation. It's kind of late for graduation, but it's always next year. Business luncheon. It's a great place. It's at 6484 Sutton Road, Whitmore Lake, Michigan. So you can call them at 734-662-5144. And I encourage you to call them. Let them know you heard it here on The Drift and you read it in the current newspaper. I also want to tell you about AAA